Okay. Yeah, I know I just didn't read. Okay, hold on. Okay. Whew. All right. Uh, hey everyone, thank you for joining me for another YouTube video. I have to do this. I'm sorry. You know me. Uh, I'm a retro geek. I like the older games, and yeah. Look, I'm usually pretty positive on this channel, so I'm going to try and look at this in a good way, but I also want you to understand that I'm coming from a place of love when I say, what are you doing, Sony? Stop it! Now, if you haven't heard the news, apparently Sony is planning to do a ton more remakes, which is okay. I mean, yes, I get annoyed when Nintendo does it, but at least when they do, like, oh, here's Ocarina of Time 3D. Okay, well, that came out on the Nintendo 64. We've had the GameCube and the Wii and the Wii U. So we've had at least 3 console generations since you re-released Ocarina of Time. So at least it makes sense. But then you get some things that just like, okay, well, yeah, it kind of makes a ton of sense that there's a PS4 remake because the PS3 didn't sell very well. So they want to try to recoup the money for this, or the Wii U didn't sell as well, so they want to recoup the money from Donkey Kong Country, so here's this game again on the Switch. Sometimes it makes sense, but this doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm just going to make a list here, and I'm just going to go through this real quick, and of course you're welcome to put your thoughts down below. I'd like to hear what you have to say, if you agree or disagree with me or whatever, but yeah, Sony's coming out with a ton of these remakes, man. Like, they already announced the Until Dawn remake, which is on PS4, and you can download it and play it on PlayStation Plus, so why would you buy a remastered of it when the game still plays fine, to me still looks fine. It's not like it's a PS2 or PS3 game that's aged poorly. There's an Uncharted remake, which is fine, because again, Uncharted 1 was a PS3 game and it didn't age that well, so redoing it with like triggers and the adaptive triggers and maybe doing the motion like you did with the PS3 and stuff like that, that's cool, that's fine. But then you announce like the God of War trilogy, and it's like, the God of War trilogy was a PS4 game. If I remember correctly, maybe it was a PS3 game. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought there was a PS4 version that came out because they had the God of War games that came out on PS. Well, no, it might have been a PS3 game. So I guess that can make a little bit of sense, but still, that feels like something that you didn't really need to do. And if you're going to do the whole thing, do the anthology. Like, put in, the Chains of Olympus, put in the PSP games also. Do like what you did with that, what was it? Was it Resistance Retribution? The PSP game that they did of Resistance got a PS5 game recently. Like, they upped it, and now it's on PlayStation Plus for people to download and play, and it's like an upscaled version of the PSP game on PS5. Do something like that. That's cool. The PSP is old. It's got games that haven't aged that well. That makes a ton of sense. But then you announced like Gravity Rush 2, and that's fine. I liked Gravity Rush. I was enjoying Gravity Rush 2. But again, that's a PS4 game that you can also, as far as I know, it's still there. I'd have to double check. But I got it on PlayStation Plus, so yeah, it's there for you to play. But as long as it's bringing attention to the series, I'm okay with it. And that's the main thing. Because there are some games out there that they deserve legit remakes. So I'm not trying to say, Retro Geek is just being old man shaking his fist at a cloud and being angry at everything, because he just has the PS3 versions of these games anyway. He has the PS4 version, the PS2 versions of these games. He's not going to buy them. But when you have games like you're remaking Horizon Zero Dawn, a PS4 game that still looks fine, and you're still having PS4 support. You're not completely abandoning the PS4. And again, you can get Zero Dawn, I believe it's on PlayStation Plus for you to download, along with Forbidden West. Why would anybody want to pay you for it? But, I don't know, I guess we have to wait and see what quality of life features it has. But at the end of the day, I can't see the point to it. And then we've seen them already do stuff like, hey, here's the Last of Us 2 remake, even though the Last of Us 2 literally just came out like a couple of years ago. What are we going to get next? A Forbidden West remake? A God of War Ragnarok remake? Like, where does this end? Where does this end with these games that can basically just be supported with a little bit of patching to do like maybe what like Baldur's Gate did. Like, I don't recall there being DLC for Baldur's Gate yet, but it keeps updating because they're constantly fixing bugs and tweaking stuff. And what's wrong if you saying, hey, yeah, we want you to have a PS5 version of Horizon Zero Dawn, but maybe spend $5 on it, and you get a PS5 version that just magically makes the game go up. Like, we did that, right, with Spider-Man. I believe there was an Ultimate Edition that you could get a PS5 version and upscales it. They did it with Miles Morales. Like, what's wrong with us just getting these games again, maybe on the PlayStation Store, maybe we just can physically buy them, and all they are is just like $10 to upgrade them to a PS5 version that looks better, that runs better. Nothing wrong with this. I don't think we need to remake the whole game. But at the end of the day, Sony's going to do what it's going to do. Just like Nintendo's going to do what it's going to do. Nintendo makes at least a little bit more sense because the Wii U did not sell a whole lot. So them wanting to re-release their games on a system that is selling like hotcakes and is still selling well half a decade later makes a ton of sense. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I crazy for thinking this? Like, are remakes just a necessity at this point? But then if that's the case, then why do we have games at all? Because then that's just like saying, here's the PlayStation 6, and then here's the entire PlayStation 5 library remade to work with the PS6. Does that make sense? Like, we start getting to a point now to it's like, why do we even have generations at all? Why do we even have new games come out at all? Like, I would rather have had a Horizon 3 that wraps up the story. I would rather get, a third Gravity Rush, even though I know the Gravity Rush series didn't really sell that well, but maybe this is going to be that entryway into a third Gravity Rush. Who knows? Maybe, I know that they've had technical sequels like The Quarry and stuff like that came from the same team, but maybe, like you had The Inpatient that was a VR prequel. Maybe you can do some kind of a sequel to Until Dawn, as an example. So yeah, I'm just saying that I would much rather see these games come out and maybe get some kind of life improvement in a sequel that is then worth the $60, $70 you're going to charge for it, rather than just say, hey, here's that exact same game that you played 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the exact same story, the exact same game, but now it's just a little bit shinier and the water looks a little bit more crisper. Again, if you're that kind of person, it makes total sense. I know people that they did not get the chance to play The Last of Us. So getting a remake of it on the latest console that they love playing makes a ton of sense. There are people who, my children, for an example, they did not grow up in the N64 era. They were kind of sort of growing up in the 3DS era, so they didn't get a chance to really play these Zelda games. So re-releasing them and them being interested in it makes a ton of sense. But I guess it just depends upon timing, because for me, if you're going to do a remake, I'd say maybe wait 2 to 3 console generations. Like remaking PS2 games, remaking PSP games makes a ton of sense, because those games are older. Like if you said, hey, here's a remake of Primal, well, okay, that's cool. Primal was a very cool game on the PS2. I loved the heck out of it. And remaking it makes a ton of sense. Even maybe remaking a Jak and Daxter game makes a ton of sense. Remaking the Spyro games would probably make a ton of sense. Even maybe making modern day Banjo-Kazooie, even though it might throw up in my mouth a little bit, it would still make more of a, more ton of sense than games that literally just came out like last console generation. But that's my 2 cents, and I'm sorry about the rant, guys. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from, because usually I'm a very positive person. I like to be positive and not be negative on stuff, but I just don't see the constant need for remakes. But again, we're probably just at the end of console generations, because that's what's going on with the Switch. We're getting a ton of remakes and like collections and just ports and stuff like that, just because we're probably at the end of the console generation. So maybe we're at the end of the PS5's console generation. I hope not, because I feel like it just came out 2 or 3 years ago, so it feels like it's way too short. But what do I know, guys? I'll see you in the next video, though. Have a good one, okay? Peace.